Salvete discipuli. In today's lesson, we are going to study a particularly interesting and difficult sentence written by Julius Caesar. In the past, I have shown you long sentences that were, in fact, just run-on sentences. Well, this one is one complete grammatical sentence made very lengthy by a number of embedded clauses. Well, let's get started. Okay, once again, remember, we have seen some really long sentences written by Caesar, but they were run-on sentences. This one is not. This is actually one complete grammatical sentence, okay? My job here today is I'm going to try to get you ready before we dig into this sentence to understand the basic grammar that you're going to encounter. You will see that despite the length of this sentence, it is not, in fact, very difficult, okay? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to now be showing you other examples, leading you step by step to an understanding of how this sentence works. Okay. Part A, setting the stage. Okay, his rebus adducti. Okay, this is a phrase. This is how it starts. Led by these things. Okay, this is a nominative plural. It's describing the Helvetians, by the way. Okay, so the Helvetians are described as led by these things. Adducti is a past participle. Okay, his rebus. This is ablative plural. Okay, led by these things would mean, for instance, like if I were trying to convince you to do something and you accepted my argument and then you did it, well, you did it led by these things. Okay, so let's practice a couple more examples of a past participle with this ablative complement, his rebus, by these things. If his rebus adducti means led by these things, and if convinco, convincere, convici, convictus means to convince, what would his rebus convicti mean? Convinced by these things, okay? Again, the past participle is passive here, convinced by these things. Now, let's change it out of the nominative plural. Let's make it about metella, okay? If it's about metella, the past participle is going to have the same case, number, and gender as the subject. What if it's metella his rebus adducta? Metella, led by these things. Okay, now we're going to introduce the main verb of our sentence from Caesar. The main verb is decided, okay? So just to give you a big overview, the sentence is going to say some people decided to do something, okay? But before we hear what they decided to do, we learn why they decided to do it, okay? If permovo, permovere, permovi, permoti means to move, okay? Remember back to adducti led, convicti convinced. What would servi, comma, his rebus permoti, comma, constituerunt? How would you translate that? The slaves, moved by these things, decided. Now, here's the reality. Moved by something and led by something are really not that different, right? I mean, I could see a situation and it makes me decide I'm going to do a certain thing, okay? So moved by what I saw, I decided to do something. Now, again, decided to do something. We are going to see infinitives that are the action. What did the subject decide to do? All right, let's add one in. So now, Caecilius, okay? Because Caecilius is nominative singular masculine, now the past participle also has to match him. Caecilius, his rebus adductus, constituit laborare, okay? It was constituerunt because it was plural, okay? Now it's singular, constituit. What did Caecilius decide to do? And why did he decide to do it? Well, Caecilius, led by these things, decided to work. Okay, so now, look, I've just added one element, okay? So we already studied the sentence, Caecilius his rebus adductus constituit laborare. Caecilius, led by these things, decided to work. Now, all I've added is, where did he decide to work? He decided to work in foro, okay? In the forum. What I'm trying to show you is, okay, look at how long this sentence has already become. But it's not that tough, right? Caecilius, led by these things, decided to do something. He decided to do something somewhere. He decided to work in the forum, okay? This sentence has gotten lengthy, but guess what, people? This sentence is almost done. We have almost seen all the complexity that is going to be in the sentence written by Julius Caesar. Look, maybe he decided to do two things, okay? Constituit in foro laborare et amicum visitare, okay? You know this stuff, okay? If you were to simply to add, decided to work in the forum, and what else did he decide to do? Decided to visit the friend, okay? Has this sentence really gotten more complicated? Not really, okay? All we've got is an additional infinitive of something he decided to do, okay? That's going to be the key to the sentence written by Julius Caesar. He's going to have that verb in the plural, constituerunt, they decided, and he's going to have a number of things they decided to do. Okay? And there's going to be objects, okay? Just like amicum is the object of visitare, to visit the friend, when Caesar writes his sentence, those infinitives are going to have objects. Now, we're going to add one more element before we go back to study the sentence written by Caesar himself. This is simply a purpose clause. You guys know this stuff. Ut amicum videret. In order that he might see the friend, okay? And you know you can simplify in order that he might see the friend down to see the friend, okay? So now, let's add that into a simple sentence. Caecilius, okay? Now, this clause, okay, this clause isn't the main sentence. The main sentence is Caecilius forum intravit. Entered the forum. That's the main sentence, okay? This ut clause, this purpose clause here, this tells you, why did Caesar enter the forum? Well, he entered the forum in order that he might see the friend, Caecilius. Now, we could leave this in the same order as what we have in Latin, Caecilius, in order that he might see the friend, enter the forum. Or you could also move it, okay? Now, let's bring this back to the sentence that Caesar wrote. Instead of entered the forum, what if he decided to do something in order that he might see the friend? Okay? Caecilius constituit forum intrare. Why did he do that? Here's why. Ut amicum videret. Caecilius decided, in order that he might see the friend, to enter the forum, okay? So the scenario is here, Caecilius is at home. He'd like to see the friend. The friend's not in his house. He knows the friend is probably in the forum. So, Caecilius constituit, ut amicum videret, forum intrare, okay? So, one more. Quintus. His rebus adductus constituit, ut patrem audiret ad forum festinare. Okay, so this is putting together everything we've learned. The main sentence is that Quintus decided to do something. Okay, this is the sentence. Quintus decided to do something. His rebus adductus tells us why he decided to do it. Ut patrem audiret is also another motivation for constituit. And ad forum, okay, that's just a little like tag on, okay, to hurry to the forum. Okay, so put it all together. Quintus, led by these things, decided, in order that he might hear the Father, to hurry to the forum. Okay? And remember, you could always move that element, that ut patrem audiret. You can move it to the end. Look, I just moved it to the end. Let's read that sentence. Quintus, led by these things, decided to hurry to the forum in order to hear the Father. The sentence we are about to study, written by Julius Caesar, is not any more complicated than the one you currently see. Okay, you have been equipped to understand this sentence. It really isn't more complicated than the one that we were just looking at. Okay, so take a moment, pause the video if you need to, and identify where are there actual verbs with actual verb endings here. Here they are. Constituerunt, that's a verb with a verb ending. Pertinerent and supeteret. Now, something important to note here. You know this is a plural ending, okay? The erunt ending is the they did something ending. But look, this is not a plural ending. So, you know that at least these two verbs, constituerunt and supeteret, these do not, in fact, have the same subject. Okay? So if this is one complete grammatical sentence, it might have a subject and a verb. But if there is a verb in a sentence that can't have the original subject, it must be something in a clause. And even though this one's plural, by the way, it also might not have the same subject as constituerunt. Okay, so constituerunt is our main verb. It needs a subject, okay? It needs a nominative plural subject. Where prior to constituerunt do you see a nominative plural ending? There they are. Adducti, okay, the I is the nominative plural, second declension. Same thing, permoti, okay? Now, there was a reason we studied these, okay? We studied these in the example sentences so that we could be prepared to translate them in Caesar's sentence. Now, do we look for an object of the verb constituerunt? Do we look for an object? No, we don't. We look for infinitives, okay? They decided to do some things. They decided comparare, coemmere, facere, confirmare, okay? That's all this sentence is, people, okay? Led by these things, they decided to do this stuff. Okay? Some of the stuff is going to have an object, some of it's going to have some other clauses, but again, this sentence is not more complicated than, led by these things, they decided to do some stuff. Okay, so those infinitives are going to have some objects. Look in the sentence, even if you don't find them all, you know that objects need to be accusatives. Just take a moment, look for some things that are accusative. Here they are. Okay, so ea, this is the neuter plural, those things which, ea quae. Maximum numerum, okay, the greatest number, okay. Sementes maximas, okay, this is going to be another object. And pacem amicitiam, okay, These are accusative objects of all those infinitives. Now, if it's Caesar, there'll be subclauses, okay? So just like we practiced with the ut clause, okay, in order that he might see the friend, something like that, well, guess what, people? If it's Caesar, there might just be a subclause that isn't, in fact, the actual sentence. This sentence still could just be, led by these things, they decided to do some stuff. Okay? But it might include in order that something might happen. Okay? And that's just a subclause. It's not part of the real sentence. Okay, so as a rule of thumb, subclauses, if you can put a parenthesis around it and you still have a sentence, it's a subclause. And we've got two subclauses, okay? So one of them we've already prepared you for, okay? This ut in itinere copia frumenti supeteret, this is basically the subclause that we prepared you with things like ut amicum salutaret, in order to greet the friend or in order to see the friend, okay? So now we also have a relative clause, okay? Ea is going to mean those things, but it's going to be those things which something, okay? So again, this sentence is simply led by these things and moved by something. They decided to do a bunch of stuff. Everything else left in the sentence, by the way, with the exception of those subclauses, those infinitives and their objects, everything else is what I'm going to call gravy, okay? It's complements, ablative complements, led by these things, etc. Okay, all together now. His rebus adducti, led by these things. Your PDF breaks down the sentence into its constituent parts in ways that you can record all of these, and then you can later go back and kind of like maybe give yourself some arrows to understand how the sentence works. Et auctoritate orgetorigis permoti, and moved by the authority of Orgetorix. Okay, so Orgetorix is a persuasive guy. Okay, he's given them an argument about what they should do and why, and so led by these things and moved by the authority of Orgetorix, here's what's going to happen, people. They decided to do some stuff. Constituerunt. They decided. What did they decide to do? Well, we're going to get to the infinitive, but the object of it is ea quae. Those things which ad proficescendum pertinerent. Those things which pertain to setting out to prepare. They decided to prepare those things which pertain to setting out. Okay? What does that mean? Now, let me give you an example. If we're going to go on a fishing trip, okay, what are those things which pertain to setting out on a fishing trip? Well, we're going to need some fishing poles, right? We're going to need some worms. Those are things which pertain to setting out on a fishing trip. And if we decide to go on a fishing trip, we are going to decide to prepare those things which pertain to setting out. But there's one more thing we're going to need, people. Do you know what we're going to need? Not just fishing poles, not just worms. We're going to need Cool Ranch Doritos, okay? Why? Because they're awesome, okay? I love them. And if we are on a fishing trip and we're just relaxing by the river, I want to eat some Cool Ranch Doritos. So you know what? Those also pertain to setting out. Okay, let's move on. What else did they decide to do? Iumentorum et carorum qua maximum numerum. Okay, this is going to be the object of an infinitive. Okay, as great a number as possible. That is what the quam maximum numerum is doing. When you put quam in front of something like a comparative like this or a superlative like this, it's as blank as possible. So, qua maximum numerum, as great a number as possible, iumentorum, of oxen. Okay, this is a genitive plural. As great a number of what? Also, carrorum, of carts. Now, if you're going to decide to set out, why do you need as great a number as possible of oxen and carts? Well, because you got to put your stuff on it, okay? All of your stuff that you're going to take from here to there, to include, by the way, your Cool Ranch Doritos, you're going to need Iumentorum et carrorum quam maximum numerum. How do you get them? Coemere, to buy up. Okay, so in other words, they decided, coemere, to buy up, Iumentorum et carrorum quam maximum numerum, as great a number as possible of oxen and carts. They decided to do that. Okay, here's another thing they decided to do. Sementes quam maximas facere, to make as many sowings as possible. Now, a sowing is that we plow the ground and we put seeds in it. We wait for the crops to grow and then we harvest them. So what does it mean to make as many sowings as possible? Well, here's the thing. You can actually try to make more than one sowing in a year, okay? In many temperate zones, however, it's risky to do so, okay? You've got one safe zone, okay? Late spring, after there's no danger anymore of a late frost, okay? Go ahead and plant your stuff. The plants are going to grow. Then they're going to come to harvest, okay? You're going to harvest them. And then there's going to be a little bit of time in which the weather is still kind of nice, okay? So the thing is, you could attempt to make 2 sowings. The only way you can make 2 sowings, however, is you got to take some risk. You have to plant that stuff before it is possible you're going to have a late frost. Because you know what? If you have a late frost, it might kill what you sowed. Okay? But if you're lucky, it doesn't. You harvest it. And you know what you do immediately after the harvest is done? You attempt another sowing. That's right. You again plant stuff. Okay? Stuff grows. And now what you're hoping against hope is that you don't have an early frost. Okay? You are hoping to get a crop, a second crop that grows. All right? So, why are they doing this? Well, it's because they are going to go on a migration, okay? They know that there is going to be a period of time in which until they get to wherever they're going, they will not be able to settle down and plant a crop. They are going to need enough food to give themselves a buffer zone. And so, another thing constituerunt, they decided to do, was sementes quam maximas facere, to make as many sowings as possible. Now, ut, in order that, in itinere, on the journey, copia frumente supeteret, the supply of grain might suffice. Now, this clause, and I'm going to go back and show you the pieces again, this clause explains why they decided to make as many sowings as possible. They did this in order that the supply of grain might suffice on the journey. Okay? This is the reason why. Again, ut, in order that. Copia frumenti, the supply of grain. Supeteret, might suffice. Suffice means to be enough on the journey. In other words, until they are settled somewhere and can plant crops again, they need enough food for the journey. Okay, we have one more thing that they decided to do. Cum proximis civitatibus, with the nearby city-states. Now, at this point, of course, you're Latin 4. You don't need me to tell you what words mean what, okay? Cum is with, proximis, nearby, civitatibus, city-states. With the nearby city-states, pacem et amicitiam, peace and friendship, okay? This is the accusative object of this infinitive, confirmare, to confirm. So the final thing they decided to do, they decided confirmare, to confirm. Pacem et amicitiam, peace and friendship. Cum proximis civitatibus, with the nearby city-states. Why? Well, here's why. They are going on a migration, okay? They're not trying to invade their neighbors, but they are going to probably have to cross over the territory of their neighbors. So they decided to confirm peace and friendship with the nearby city-states so that when they do cross over their territory, those guys say, oh, no, we have peace and friendship with them. They're not invading us. We know that they're just going on this migration, okay? So, here it is, people. Here is this long sentence, okay? I hope that you've now come to understand how it all works. It really isn't any more complicated than those sentences we studied before we decided to look at the real thing. Led by these things and moved by the authority of Orgetorix, they decided to prepare those things which pertain to setting out, to buy up as great a number as possible of oxen and carts, to make as many sowings as possible, in order that the supply of grain might suffice on the journey, to confirm peace and friendship with nearby city-states.